Given the function f of x equals negative, parenthesis, x plus 1, close parenthesis, squared, plus 5, let's graph. So the first step we're going to do is plot the vertex and the axis of symmetry. If you guys remember, the vertex comes from our h, comma, k. Now, typically vertex form says x minus h. So technically inside here is an x minus a negative 1. So our h value here is negative 1, and our k value is 5. So our vertex is negative 1, comma, 5, which means our axis of symmetry is x equals negative 1. So I'm going to first plot my axis of symmetry at x equals negative 1. And it's good to number your graph. So you have just a frame. Oops, that's a positive 10. A good idea of, the intervals of each line. So it's negative 10. And we'll put a negative 10 down here as well. So they go by ones. All right, so if I go over 1 in the negative direction, that's going to be my axis of symmetry. Here's my axis of symmetry at x equals negative 1. Now I'm going to plot negative 1, comma 5. So I go over negative 1, and I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right over here is my vertex. Okay, I've done step 1. Step 2 is to evaluate the function to find 2 other points. So I'm going to pick points close to the axis of symmetry. So let's say I want to find f of 0. So at the x value of 0, I'm going to figure out what my function is. So I plug that into the original equation, but instead of an x, I'm going to change that to a 0. Okay. And I get negative 2 times 1 squared plus 5. That reduces to negative 2 times 1, because 1 squared is 1, plus 5, which is negative 2 plus 5, or 3. So at x equals 0, my y value is 3. So I go 0, comma 1, 2, 3, and I am right here. Okay? Now let's get another one. Okay, so I'm going to evaluate that point at another x value. Let's look at f of 1. Okay, so I'm going to plug that in. So negative 2, parentheses 1 plus 1 squared, plus 5. That's equal to negative 2 times 2 squared plus 5. 2 squared is just 4. So negative 2 times 4 plus 5. Order of operations says we have to do multiplication first. So negative 2 times 4 is negative 8 plus 5. So we get negative 3. So that means the point 1, comma, negative 3 is also part of this graph. So I'm going to go over 1 and down 1, 2, 3, and I'll plot my point. Okay, step 2 is complete. Now that I've evaluated the function, I can just reflect each of those points over the axis of symmetry, since the axis of symmetry is a symmetrical line. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over to negative 2 and go up 3. I'm going to go over to negative 3 and I'm going to go down negative 3. Okay, so you see they're each an equal distance from the axis of symmetry. 2 units, 2 units, 1 unit, 1 unit. Okay, that step is complete. Finally, I'm going to draw in my parabola. And there you have it. A parabola drawn based on vertex form.